Hello. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to at least check in and show you what we've been kind of working on as far as fraction goes for adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So first I'll start with adding and subtracting fractions. So the process is the same whether you're adding or subtracting. It's just a different operation. So for example, if we had 3/4 minus, or plus, sorry, 1/2. We talked with the kids about that. They have to have the same denominator because you can't add two of the same, or, if they're not the same size. They have to be the same size. So a fourth is a lot smaller than a half. So they have to be equal size in order to add the two pieces together. So it's kind of like apples and oranges. Can't put those together. Yes, they're all fruits, but they're not, they're two separate things. So you can't put them together. You can't count them together. So one way that we discuss doing that is changing to common denominators. So there's two things they can do. They can either just multiply them by each other, or they can find the least common denominator. So we'll just do it by multiplying by each other. So I'm going to multiply the 4 by 2 and the 3 by 2. And what you do to the bottom, you have to do to the top. So you have to, I told them you have to share the love for each of them. For this one, we'll multiply that by 4 and then the top by 4. So our new fraction here then becomes, so 3 times 2 is 6. So it becomes 6/8 plus 4/8. And now since we have the same size denominator, we can add. So our denominator does not change. It stays the same. 6 plus 4 is 10. Now we're not done though. We have to simplify. So we can't leave it as an improper fraction. So when we simplify, it becomes 1 and 2/8. And we can actually simplify that even more to 1 and 1/4. In order to simplify, we would do 10 divided by 8. So we talked about how that fraction bar means divided by. It's another way to show division. So 8 can go into 10 one time. When we subtract, we get 2 as a remainder. So our whole number is 1. Our remainder becomes our new numerator, and then our denominator still stays the same. So that's how we got that mixed number for our answer. I'm going to work out one more problem. This time I'll do subtraction, and just to show that it is still the same steps, but maybe with a little bit more complicated mix or denominator. So let's say we've got 1/3, and we're going to subtract 1/6 from it. Okay, so 1/3 minus 1/6. So we could multiply these by each other and get 18 as a common denominator, or there's a lower one. So the least common denominator that these two have in common is 6. So we actually only have to change this other one. So if we multiply this by 2, then we can change this to be 6, and then we have a new common denominator. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And then this still would be 1/6. So 2/6 minus 1/6 is 1/6. So in this step, we only had to change one of the denominators. So if we can do that, we would be better off with that. This process is still the same if you're doing mixed numbers. The only difference is sometimes mixed numbers can get a little tricky. So if we have 1 and 1/3 plus 2 and 3/4, for example, you can do it two ways. You can add the whole numbers first and then add your fractions, or you can change them both into improper fractions and then add them, and change the denominators and everything. So we're going to do that first. So in order to change them to improper fractions, we multiply our denominator times our whole number, and then we add our numerator. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, and our denominators stay the same. So that becomes 4/3. Plus, again, times and then add. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 3 is 11, so we get 11/4. Now, we can't add these yet because they're not the same denominator, but we have the whole numbers kind of not necessarily out of the picture, but we don't have to worry about them. This really comes in handy when we're subtracting, especially if we have to borrow, because that does get complicated. So our least common denominator is 12, and we would just multiply these by each other. So times 4 times 4 times 3 times 3. So 4 times 4 is 16 over 12 plus 33 over 12. When we add these together, remember our denominators stay the same, and then we would get 49 over 12. We're not done though, we have to simplify. So in order to simplify, we would do 49 divided by 12. 12 goes into 49 4 times, and we get 48 with the remainder of 1. So this is equal to 4 and 1 12. So again, you can see how the process is the same. We still have to change our denominators to be the same, but we just have that extra factor of the whole number in there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Changing denominators is very simple once we get the hang of it. The kids are doing a really great job with it. It's just the math facts that get in their way. I hope you enjoyed this short video. Thanks.